Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it is time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. As always, we're going to go around our esteemed panel and introduce our great guests. Before you guys start asking, Dr. Tony Hampton will not be here with us tonight. He is actually on a little vacay, but he will be back on next week with us just as well. Well, I'm going to start with my colleague who tends to leave me and go and have fun in the sun. And I wonder where he is today. That's our very own Dr. Douglas Graham. Dr. Graham?
Thank you, Nikki. I want to let you know this is the first day I've seen sun in 2 weeks. So I'm glad I could have a little bit of fun. I'm a retired physician. I spent 30 years working in the western suburbs, and after that retired and spent 2 years in the congressman's office. And it really opened my eyes to public health and public policy. It's really an honor to be here with my colleagues, and we're going to try and answer your questions as best we can.
Outstanding, and thank you so very much. Well, to the guy who hates accolades, but he is really the urologist of the stars. He's had many, many patients, and I have a question for all of our listeners and viewers. Is there a doctor in the house? That's our very own Dr. Terry Mason. Dr. Mason?
Oh, thank you so much, Nikki. It's always my pleasure to be on the show with you, Congressman, my colleagues, and to have the opportunity for us to share information about the things that are the topics of the day. So I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be able to be a part of what's going to happen and the things that we're thinking about. We'll discuss later during this meeting. So thank you. And I want to also thank my colleagues who are here with us this evening and look forward to a spirited conversation.
Outstanding, and thank you so very much. Well, to our special guest who is here with us on this evening, who is a phenomenal physician, but before he was a physician, he actually held on to, I guess you call it the pigskin. He was a phenomenal NFL player, and he's an adamant jazz buff, and that's our very own Dr. Gregory Primus. Dr. Primus, introduce yourself.
Hello. Well, I'm very excited to be here because Dr. Nicole, you are super excited. So you hyping us all up. I love the energy. I've always admired the congressman. There's not too many, politicians, at least from a physician perspective, that clearly have shown a dedication to healthcare and just the overall health of our people. And so I've always appreciated that. So to be invited to be with this esteemed group of doctors and just help have a conversation and answer questions. Definitely an honor and privilege. And of course, anytime I get to spend time with my mentor, Dr. Terry Mason, I'm always gonna show up and be there and be ready. And I'm sorry, Dr. Hampton isn't on. I tell you, we've known each other for quite some time. We have a great referral relationship. He is an incredible physician, and I'm always trying to get patients to him, and they can't get in because he's so busy and popular. But I really appreciate Dr. Hampton, and a pleasure meeting you, Dr. Graham, and definitely looking forward to hearing about your perspective on all this.
Outstanding, and thank you so very much. Well, to the man that makes this possible for us each and every Monday night, to the one who truly teaches us that your true health or your true wealth is really your health. That's our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District, Congressman Danny K. Davis. Congressman?
Well, thank you very much, Nick, and let me thank all of our guests, especially all of the physicians who spend time with us on Monday evenings. Health is such an integral part of everything that goes on in our society and in our world today. Not only the physical well-being that we look after and look for, but also the state of mental health that exists or does not exist, or the attention that we give to it or does not give to it, until of all the things that we do. And it's always an opportunity for me to thank the health practitioners, because in one sense, the area that I represent and that we live in, something called the 7th District in the state of Illinois is a health facilities mecca in terms of healthcare resources that exist. And yet, when we look at health status, in many instances, some of the conditions are comparable to what we find in underdeveloped nations. And we wonder how that is. My thoughts on the evening were actually to some degree generated by listening to Dr. Mason and Dr. Primus on Sunday morning. I happened to be listening to Doctor in the House, and I heard the whole 1 hour because I was glued to my radio and was intrigued by the conversation that spoke in relationship to health resources, those that do exist, those that do not exist, the role that safety net hospitals play in our community, the role that we need to be playing in a greater way with all aspects of healthcare, but especially mental health. And so I was so stimulated and I was so thrilled with hearing Dr. Mason and Dr. Primus talk about how do we establish and create our own resources. I mean, how do we, knowing that we live in an environment that we rely a great deal on others, and somehow or another, we have not been able, and I often say that we relive experiences. And my sense of history tells me that when I look at this country, the period we're in right now, although technology has changed, information dissemination has changed, but we're kind of again reliving the period after slavery, and then a brief period called the Reconstruction, where we had a period where tremendous progress was made relative to the lives of Black people in this country. And then fast forward, we ultimately got to what was called the Civil Rights era, where for a period of time, progress was made again. And the same kind of forces that emerged then have re-emerged, and the progress is being diminished. For example, I heard about the number of Black-owned hospitals that once existed, but you can't find a Black-owned hospital in the United States of America now. And the rationale that created them, or even some individuals who were able to establish, and I've been fortunate to have known the Williams brothers and to have known the work that they did. I also had the good fortune to work for Dr. T.R.M. Howard, who had Friendship Medical Center in Chicago after he was run out of Mountain Bayou, Mississippi by the Klan because he was also registering people to vote and that kind of stuff. So, Dr. Primus, Dr. Mason, could you all just kind of kick us off with reacting or rehashing a little bit of what I heard you all talking about Sunday?
I would defer to Dr. Primus. We've been having a great conversation about a number of things. And the conversation, Congressman, really got stimulated because, we can sit around and talk about all the problems. We can sit around and talk about what we may need or what have you. But I decided to take a page, and I hope no one gets offended by it, but I took a page from a movie that was, but was a movie about Black folks and what we need to do. And one of the characters in her name was Celie. And Celie, and I bring her up only because she provided, in my mind, the most provocative and the most important question for us as a people to ponder. And she asked the question in that movie one day, in one part of it, she asked the question, what is us gonna do? Not what we're gonna talk about for 2 more years, but what is us gonna do? And that was the impetus that drove the conversations that you heard that Dr. Primus and I were having, because that's a question we still haven't answered. What do we, we can talk a lot, but the thing is, what are we going to do? And I also, just to finish this, one of the things I remember we were trying when I was in the Nation of Islam and was trying to build a hospital. And I remember that the administration at that time, which was back in some time ago, blocked the formation of our hospital that we were trying to build. Was in the area of what used to be, or what may still be called, the area of Auburn Gresham. It's in a place called Cole Park was located over there. And twice we brought bids and money on the table to actually build a hospital in that area, which for a number of reasons, and I won't go into them now, but didn't happen. And it is still something. And I still think that part of the questions in that movie, one question when Celie asked the question, what is us going to do? That's what we got to do. We have got to look at these opportunities, these things that look like problems, but really are opportunities, form together the right kinds of allegiances and get to work. And I'll stop right there.
Well, I don't know if Dr. Primus is frozen, but in the meantime, really, really quickly, just want to say hey to Angela Underwood, who is here with us. Sandell Scott is here. Angela Underwood says good evening to everyone. Sandell Scott is here, and she says hello. To Deborah over at Coleman's Barbecue, she says good evening to everyone. Tina is here, and of course, Tina Hammond is doing the call out. She's letting Nikki Campbell and Miss Rosie Watson know that they need to check in with us. Keisha Forrest is here. Dorothy Lavelle is here. Hey, Miss Dorothy, how you doing? Patrick McKenzie is here. Want to say hey to the guys in the garage who says the weather is broke and they are hanging out watching on the big screen. So thank you guys so much. Also want to say hi to the Core Center who is here with us. Carmen Pitts is here with us. Carmen Walker is here with us just as well. Mark Rodriguez is here. Dr. Renee is here with us. Hannah Wright is here. Danny from CPD is here with us just as well. Dwayne Banks is here. Upindo Parker is here. Hey, Pastor Parker, how are you? Lieutenant Daniel Allen is here with us. Hey, Reggie. Reggie is here with us just as well. I want to say hey to Kathy Jones, who is here. She says, I don't miss a Monday. So thank you, Kathy, for not missing any Mondays. To Derek Tyler, who is here, Deborah Higgins, who is here, Carlin Morris is here with us, Vinny Hundley is here, a phenomenal musician. Thank you, Vinny, for being here with us on tonight. Nadine Dykes is here with us, and Sharon Latiker is here. Hey, Dr. Latiker, how are you? Thank you so very much. I know you asked Dr. Primus a question. And Dr. Primus, you are fine. Your connection is great. So go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And great to hear all the people tuning in. One of the things that stimulated or was a catalyst, if you will, for the conversation the congressman referred to that he heard us talking is that West Suburban Hospital recently closed. And it was one of many in this long line of quote unquote safety net hospitals that have closed in Chicago, in the Chicagoland region. And these hospitals tend to always be nurtured in predominantly Black and Brown communities, serving largely minority populations. Obviously, because they're safety net hospitals, they're serving populations that may be in a lower socioeconomic class with no insurance or Medicaid, underinsured. And so these hospitals are safety net hospitals because oftentimes these people in these communities don't have any other access except to be able to go to a hospital like this. And so if you close that hospital, now you're putting that person at such a significant disadvantage and grave risk of healthcare problems and increased illnesses and sicknesses and even death when we talk about things such as trauma. You know, you close a hospital where someone can get to that hospital within 5 minutes and they have a medical condition that can save their life in 7 minutes. But now their nearest hospital is 15 or 20 minutes because you've closed that hospital. Well, now that person's going to die. That person's going to die simply because that hospital closed that they had access to. And so these are real life and death issues. And the way this hospital closed, they closed with a 1 to 2 day notice. And so all the patients that were in the hospital, all the staff, hundreds, thousands of staff were all of a sudden out of a job. Now, we can get into the history of why certain ethnic groups, but let's take Black people here in Chicago as an example, why we don't have ownership or control over certain healthcare environments. Take, for example, a hospital. What's the history that led to this current state is a very interesting history that we can get into. But the bottom line is whether it's Black people taking care of Black people or Hispanic people taking care of Hispanic or Catholics taking care of Catholics or Jewish people taking care of Jewish or the Muslims taking care of Muslims. The bottom line is what we know is that when you take care of a community that you represent, you get better health care. And let's just take the whole racism and our history of Black people in this country and all of the evils and perils that we lived through in this country. Just human nature tells you that, right? Common sense tells you that if you understand a culture and you understand a people and you speak their language and you understand certain nuances about why they feel the way they feel or their phobias or why they don't want to, do something, and or they trust you because you look like them and you sound like them and you remind them of their uncle or aunt or father or mother or whatever the case may be, you're going to be more likely to listen to their advice, right? So these are just common sense things. Well, unfortunately, Black people live in a healthcare community where we don't get that. We don't get and have the ability in our environments where we can trust the medical industry. And again, there's a whole long history surrounding that as well. And so we know when we have the ability to be present, when we have the ability to care for our community does better. There's an interesting, and I get so passionate about this topic. There's an interesting study that came out a few years ago that was so shocking, but it demonstrates this point better than any other study that I've seen recently, where they looked at the number of Black primary care physicians in a certain geographical radius, and they found that just by having a higher number of Black primary care physicians, all the Black people in that community have better healthcare outcomes. Even the Black people that weren't actually being seen by those Black primary care doctors, right? So they looked at all the Black people, and some had never seen those Black primary care doctors. But there was something about the fact that that community had a higher number of Black primary care doctors that elevated the entire atmosphere, the medical atmosphere for those Black people in that community, and they actually have better healthcare outcomes and metrics. So it's just so important. And so anyway, as Dr. Mason said, we're at a point now where either we could just sit on the sideline and again watch and see what happens, or we can take action because we have a situation right before our eyes now that we can actually do something about. We have a hospital closure. The hospital happens to serve the entire west side of Chicago, which is a huge population of vulnerable people that really need excellent health care. Sits on the border of, it's actually in Oak Park, but it sits right on the border of Austin, right there on the west side. And so it really became West Side's hospital. And we need to do something about it.
Well, we don't want to leave, Dr. Primus, it's a wonderful thing we had this conversation and want to continue it. But I'd like to get some input from the other folks that are sitting here, because ain't no cavalry coming, y'all.
Yeah.
Ain't no cavalry coming. If we don't do this, it ain't going to get did. Pardon my wonderful English. And we got to stop looking outside ourselves for our solutions for ourselves. I'm not saying you exclude anybody. You want to move along with people who think like you think, want to do what you want to do, are in sync with what you're trying to get done. But at the end of the day, we got to get going. We got to get going. Now, I know there are a lot of things, and I'll stop here, and Congressman can tell us more about some of the obstructions, but we've got some things that we don't leverage as much as we probably could and should before we get to inpatient. But we got an excellent network of federally qualified health centers that can do a lot more than they're currently doing with a little help. And I'll leave that open. So if the congressman wants to respond to that, you may go right ahead.
Well, I think I wanted to share that on Saturday, we have a group called the West Side Black Elected Officials. And we had a very stimulating discussion with that group that's made up of the members of the city council, a number of state legislators, both state house and senate. Of course, we also have a Black speaker of the Illinois House, Chris Welch, who represents the western suburb in terms of his legislative district, but is the speaker for the whole house. And of course, we have in that same area, State Senator Kimberly Lightfoot, who is the majority leader of the state Senate. And in that same area is the president of the Illinois Senate, Senator Don Harmon, who lives in Oak Park and represents the area. And of course, Camille Lilly, State Representative Camille Lilly, who is an assistant leader in the House. And these individuals are seriously interested. And of course, we also have the county commissioner, Commissioner Tara Stamps, as well as a number of aldermen. And all of them have expressed, and I heard Dr. Mason indicate that he was certainly willing to be part of the bringing together and the creating a group. And I certainly am also willing to use whatever convening authority. And of course, we also have who will be the new congressman who also was at that meeting, Representative LaShawn Ford. So there is indeed community interest. And I think all of us know the challenge and the difficulty of generating whatever resources that it really takes.
Mm-hmm.
All of us are aware of the complexities of healthcare delivery and the difficulty of changing health status. And I certainly agree with Dr. Mason when he talks about the impact that federally qualified health centers have had and continue to have, and the fact of their existence. And I get my own personal health care at one of those, the Mile Square. And I've done so for many, 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 many years, dating back to the time when I used to work there. And so the combination of potentialities do exist to have greater impact. And we also talked about the paucity of resources in some instances relative to healthcare personnel and the fact of challenge that we find that you probably won't find many more African American males in medical school right now than you would have found 40 years ago. And that's a part of what I mean when I say that there are efforts underway to block, because if you take away public resource from movement towards manpower creation, towards opportunity, then of course you're basically sentencing population groups to early demise or early death if there is an accident or there's trauma and you can't get to a trauma center in time. So all of this is on the table. and there are efforts underway. But I'm convinced that it takes all of the technical expertise that can be generated. But it also takes this business of political pressure, and how do we generate enough of that to bring the two together in terms of one helping to activate the other. I mean, that one of my staff members, as we were on the way to the airport, said to me today, he says, well, you know, a lot of people in the community say they think they know ways that you can reopen or get West Suburban open. And I said, yeah, I appreciate that, but a lot of the ways require millions of dollars just in terms of the financing of things. So how do we develop the mindset that says to people that, yes, we actually can do this? And how do we reinvigorate that notion that there can be another civil rights movement or another? I noticed earlier, a few minutes ago, there was a newly elected member of Congress in New Jersey to replace the member who had just gotten elected governor. And there was so much enthusiasm in terms of, one, a big crowd of people came with her from New Jersey to see her sworn in. And of course, the enthusiasm was pretty raucous in terms of the right on. So the people in that area obviously are enthusiastic about what they've just done in terms of electing for themselves a new member who is of mixed community, mixed heritage, mixed everything. And obviously they're very proud of that. And they're proud that they obviously worked together to make it happen. So I guess it becomes organizing in our communities to bring together all of the forces that are needed. And that's a pretty tall order. But I do believe it can happen, because I believe that in order to become a physician, you have to be optimistic. You got to believe that what you're going to do. I say the same thing in order to become, say, a politician. You got to believe that whatever it is that you're going to do is going to be able to bring about some change so that it is a better environment when you leave it than it was when you found it. And how do we generate, I guess, feeling that this is the case? Because without it, that's why when young people tell me about wanting to run for office, And I say to them that what people are looking for are not just legislators, but they're really looking for leaders, and they're looking for leadership and for motivation. And I think all of that, Dr. Mason, becomes a part of what is needed in the way of public service, no matter what arena it may come from. And that was a part of what motivated the Daniel Hill Williams and, you know, the Williams brothers and the T.R.M. Howards and the folks who started. And so historically, I'm not sure that we do enough to help people coming along. For example, how did we save Providence Hospital? Well, there's a fellow named John Stroger and Sinstack who put a lot of effort into that at the time that they did. Sinstack coming from the vantage point of the Defender newspaper, and John Stroger ultimately becoming the head of the Cook County Board. And we ended up incorporating Providence into being a part of the public health system, Cook County Hospital. Otherwise, I guess Providence probably wouldn't exist even as it is today. And so, yeah, it requires a tremendous amount in some instances of ingenuity and creativity to make these things happen, but we got to keep believing.
Well, outstanding. I was having a few moments of radio silence because I was having a few little issues on this end. I guess we're just having some internet connections problems this evening, but I want to say hey to Diane Fountain, who is here with us. Teresa Seitz is here just as well. Miss Pittman is here with us. To my sister, Melanie Winston, who is here with us. Hey, sis. Dr. Erica Taylor is here, and Congressman, she says hello to you on this evening. Pastor Shirley Ewan is here, and she says hello just as well. Shirley Howard is here with us on this evening. Virginia Knight is here with us just as well. Stanley Q says, listening to one of our goats in our community. He is awesome. Dorothy Murphy is here, and she says good evening to everyone. Sharon Conaway is here with us, and she says hello, everyone. Mendine Mohammed is here. He says watching and listening in Chicago. Patricia Porter Rowland is here with us, and she says good evening. And Laura Leone is here, and she says good evening, Congressman, the doctors, and Nikki. Rita Pritchett is here, and she says interesting. Well, Kathy Jones is here, and she has a quick question. And Kathy's question says, what are your thoughts on statins? Some people are terrified of taking them for side effects. So whichever one of our doctors want to grab that really quickly, and then Dr. Mason, you guys go right back into your conversation.
So I'd really like to address this question. And my first question is, who's talking about the side effects? What's their training? What's their experience? And who's paying them? And the reason why I'm asking that question is these drugs have been around for 10, 20, 25 years. If there would have been a problem, they wouldn't be on the market anymore. The third issue I'd like to talk about is side effects in general. When something is released by the FDA, must not cause a serious permanent injury 97% of the time. So if you take the statin and you get a side effect, the majority of the time when you stop them, the body recovers. And so when I'm a rheumatologist and I'm offering people drugs that are very potent and powerful, I have to tell them the same thing. And the issue that we have is a heart attack and a stroke do permanent damage. There's no way to reverse them. So in my mind, I had peace of mind prescribing these drugs because I knew it was safer to take these drugs than to allow the disease to progress and have irreversible injury. So again, look at the source, look at their training, look at who's paying them to say this, and then go back and you can look at the history of these drugs and how many people have been seriously injured. And boy, oh boy, with all the attorneys out there, if that had been true, they have been completely financially wiped out and taken off the market. So I think you can take the peace of mind, and if they disagree with you, you can always stop, switch, or try a different one. There are at least 3 different generations out there, and they're improving with every generation. So as a physician, I have peace of mind in prescribing them.
Outstanding, and thank you so much. Dr. Marvin Jackson is here, and he says this is a great show. He's learning so much, and his eyes are open. Dr. Jackson, I forgot. I'm going to call you as soon as we're off. I promise. You can hold me to it. Stephen is here with us, and Stephen says, good evening to everyone. I have a question from Instagram for Dr. Primus. Our Instagram viewer says, Dr. Primus, will we ever repair our communities when things like this happen?
That's the existential question, right? But I think there's no greater aspect in our community than galvanizing around healthcare. I mean, there's not many things that matter most, right? It doesn't matter what your situation is in life, how much money you have, you don't have, what great a job you may have or don't have, or family. When your health fails, nothing else on this planet matters, right? And so I think if we can't galvanize around this issue, then yes, I could answer that question. I don't think we will ever repair our community here in this country. So this is a huge challenge for us to figure out this problem and act and make sure we demand that we are getting respectful health care in our community. And for many of us, we feel like the people who implement that care should represent that community. That's how you're going to get quality, respectful care, is having people that respect and love the patients that they're treating. And in this country, it's hard to do that unless you actually are part of that community. You can't educate yourself into that. You can't take enough cultural sensitivity classes to fix that problem. You can't read enough implicit bias or unconscious bias articles to fix that problem. You really have to have like-minded and people from the same community and culture taking care of that community. And so, yeah, we got to step up at this time.
All right. Want to say hey to my colleague, Josie Ware, who is here with us just as well. And Cassandra from Alderman Mitt's office is here with us. And she says, hello. Commissioner Carrie Steele is here. And Carrie says, hey, Congressman, how are you? Alderman Pat Dowell is here as always. Thank you, Pat. And she says, hello, just as well. Well, Congressman, we have another Instagram question, and it's for you. Our Instagram person name is Wiley. And Wiley says, Congressman, with this gut-wrenching Trump administration, do you think that we will ever be able to be healthy with the cuts that he is gutting us in healthcare?
The answer is I do. And I guess the reason that I do is that although many things are philosophical in terms of talking about the why and the how, but I remember my father, who was a great philosopher, even though his formal education was 4th grade. And we used to try and figure out
with 833 area code
how he knew whatever it was that he knew and would say. And he would say things like, there's nothing new under the sun. And as you check around, you will note that struggle has always existed. You will also know that conflict has always existed. Even if you believe in the Bible's depiction of how the world got created, and there was a time when there were very few people there or here, and there were Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and you didn't hear much about a lot of other people then. But Cain and Abel had conflict. Or one could even say there was some conflict in the creation. And so these things will always be. And there will always be this notion that there is war and rumors of war. And yet we strive for peace. Jonathan Jackson and I just happened to be on the same airplane today, and we were coming out of the airport. And we were talking about a president who gets into a fight with the Pope. And we kind of laughed with each other and say, yeah, but he'll discover that his arms are too short to box with God. but he don't mind trying. So conflict will always exist. And the question becomes, how do we manage conflict in such a way that we reduce its impact and continue to pursue this different world that we want to experience? And so I think that we have to keep believing. If you give up hope, then you don't have anything to hope for. You don't have anything to fight for. If you give up dreams, you don't have anything to believe is going to happen in a different way. So yeah, I believe that progress is inevitable as long as we continue to pursue it, as long as we keep believing. You know, I could be amazed that there were so many people who obviously don't believe in democracy a certain way. Millions of people do not vote, did not vote, but we keep trying to convince people that voting is a part of what you must do if you believe in democratic principles. And I think the reason, for example, that many people don't vote is they don't believe in democracy and they don't practice it in their own lives. They don't practice it in their own environments. That there are so many people who believe it's my way or the highway. And since that's what they believe it individually and they promote it collectively. So, yep, I think change is on the way.
Outstanding, Congressman. I want to say hey to Connie Taylor, who is here, and she says good evening to everyone. Nellie Parnell King is here, and she says good evening to everyone just as well. Joe Harrington could not be here with us on tonight, but he will definitely be here on next Monday. And for all of you all who are asking, where is Joe tonight? Just wanted to let you know he had a prior engagement, but he really misses being here. But I want to say thank you to Joe Harrington and also to Dr. Lamar Hasbrook, because they sent us some information, and that information is making sure that you get Medicaid facts correct. There is a new site and a new toolkit that's going to be launched to educate the public about the looming Medicaid eligibility changes. So I'm going to add that link into the end of our segment on this evening, and it's being sent to us by our Cook County administration. So I want to say thank you to our Cook County Board President, President Tony Preckwinkle, as well, for making sure that this link is going up on the site on this evening. So we will share that site with you, and please share the information with our communities. Information is very important, so I want to make sure that we share this information. I want to say hey to Pastor Diane Body, who is here with us just as well. Well, I know you guys hate when I say this. You hate it. But I got to say it. But right before I say it, Sharon says, well, Congressman, you are right. Sam's Cook song, A Change is going to Come. So thank you so much, Sharon, for that. But it is our time. It's our time. Join us next Monday. I see all of your questions that are coming in, and I promise you that we will filter some of these questions out and make sure that your questions get answered. We just had a special segment tonight that we wanted to educate you on. I want to say thank you to all who are asking, when will Dr. Primus be back? Because he will. He's coming back. So don't worry about it. He will definitely be back. And to those who are sending me, I got about 50 questions about COVID. Yes, COVID is still real. COVID is still here. There is a new strand of COVID. And once again, I'm going to tell you, if you are in a place where you do not feel comfortable, people are sneezing, coughing, when you are on, and I'm answering that question right now, I see it. Please just put on a mask. Simply put a mask on. We can have some of our doctors give you some information about that once again. And if you don't do anything else, I said, make sure that you wash these little things here, your hands. Make sure that you wash those hands. Don't forget those thumb areas when you're washing. And sing the happy birthday song, 20 seconds. Wash your hands. Keep some hand sanitizer on you and in your pockets. Want to say hey to Renelle Perry and her mom and Adam, who are here just as well. I got it, Renelle. Hey, Renelle, how you doing? So remember to wash those hands and wear that mask. Dr. Primus, did you want to add anything about COVID?
Well, I mean, we talk about vaccinations and vaccine hesitancy and all that, and I would just encourage people to really educate yourself on that and get vaccinated. I mean, it saves so many lives during the major pandemic. And as you mentioned, these strains, COVID is part of us now. It's going to keep coming. We're going to keep dealing with it, and it can definitely prevent a lot of major illnesses. Even if you get COVID, the ideal is to prevent major illnesses that end you up in the hospital, in the ER. So we encourage people to get their vaccinations and stay up to date with their vaccinations.
There's a purpose for Paxlovid and all those other things that go along with it. So remember, if you test, go to your doctor. Stop using emergency rooms as your primary care physicians. Find one of these great FQHCs that are out here to see you. Doug, did you want to add anything? Or Dr. Mason, did you guys want to add anything about COVID? Because we got rolling questions about COVID real quick. So I just want to make sure that we educate our communities really quickly. And thank you, Dr. Primus, for that.
Yeah, there is a new strain out. It's very good at changing. And it seems to me that the best way to protect yourself from serious illness and complications is to get vaccinated. And it turns out the best defense against long COVID is multiple vaccinations. There's virtually no harm to these things. The side effects are reversible. It's the same issue. People who are trying to frighten you talk about side effects, but these things don't get to the market without a very, very good safety profile and the understanding that 97% of the side effects are reversible if you get them.
Outstanding. Well, Stanley says, how can I speak with Dr. Mason to ask some medical questions? We'll make sure that we drop you a link where you can send that information to Stanley. I got you. Well, Dr. Mason, you're until next Monday.
Well, until next Monday is first of all to pray to still be here, and in good health. That's the I don't have the arrogant presumption to ask for more just yet.
That's right.
The other thing is I want to continue the dialogue with my colleagues that we started today, because ain't no cavalry coming. We got to get to work and do what we need to do. No, it's no one else's responsibility but ours. We can get other people to help us, and we've got some models that we can amplify on. And I'm looking forward to having those conversations. So I thank you, Nikki, again for doing what you do, and all the folks from the Cook County Physicians Association and other associations. Thank you all for being here and for doing the work that you continue to do. And congratulations to Dr. Javed Orgain, who's going to get a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I'm grateful for that. And until next week, we'll just keep working. And I'm going to be working on the plan for getting this new place started. So I'll keep you all updated as we go.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, Doug, you're until next Monday.
Well, I've been thinking about this quite a bit. And one thing my experience is that safety net hospitals are a critical part of the health landscape. And what we have going on now is not public policy, it's personal and private policy. And we have the opportunity to reverse that by voting. And number two, I fully support what Dr. Mason says. If you take care of this yourself, you'll have more control of your future. If you depend on someone else to do this for you, they're going to be making decisions that you may not agree with or want. So the more that you can do this independently, I think the more control you'll have over the outcome.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. I see that link is there. It's already been dropped. Well, Dr. Primus, you're until next Monday. So that's a hint that you'll be back next Monday. So you're until next Monday.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the open invitation. And if I'm knocking on the door, let me in. Let me in. But no, I would just encourage, especially the communities that were affected by this recent closure. And again, this is a long line of hospitals that's closed here in Chicago. But if you're part of that community on the West Side, we want to hear your voice. We want the calls to come in. We want you to write letters to all the wonderful folks that kind of are endorsed, if you will, to make sure from a societal point of view, we have access to care. So your representatives, right? Your representatives throughout all the different layers of our politics, whether it's the aldermen, the commissioners, the state reps, reach out to all these people and make your voice heard. Demand that hospital, we find a way to reopen up that hospital, and that you want your community to be the one actually owning and running and controlling that hospital.
Outstanding, and thank you. And to our CFD fans who are here, who keep sending me the same question to ask Dr. Primus, I promise you I'm going to have him answer it. So Dr. Primus, if you get a chance, they want to know, why did they get kicked out of the hospital the next day after a knee replacement? We will write that in for you somewhere. I promise I'll get that answer to you. And you'll get the opportunity to ask him when he comes back. Absolutely. All right. Well, Congressman, as always, take us home.
Well, I think it is so important to know that we have access to individuals. Just before we went on, I had a conversation with the mayor of the city of Chicago. I just called him up and told him what I wanted. He gave me the information that I asked for. And we have access to each other. And that is a tremendous amount of power potential. And as we learn to make use, many of the individuals I saw somewhere over the weekend at some event, some activity, some place, searching and seeking. The good book says, seek and ye shall find. Ask and it shall be given. Believe and you can achieve. Believe and you can accomplish. And so we will disagree. I noted that we had the Secretary of Health and Human Services testifying last week, and he has some different thoughts and ideas about vaccinations, but I'm not going to let him change my position on vaccination. I spent too long trying to learn whatever it is that I think I know about it. And when talking to him, I acknowledged that I had tremendous respect for his family and what his family had meant to America, and especially his uncle and so forth. So I guess if we continue to interact with each other and say, know ye the truth, and the truth will set you free. So if we learn the truth about these things, then we will know what to do. So thank all of you, Dr. Primus. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to all of our regulars. And thanks to those who have been watching, listening, adding thought and enlightenment, and continuing to do that in your daily activities. And like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, I do believe that we shall overcome. May not be tomorrow, may not even be next week, but we shall overcome someday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. See you next week.